In the small, sleepy town of Ridgewood, life moved at a slow pace. The streets were lined with old oak trees and everyone knew each other by name, or at least they thought they did. For 16-year-old Maya Johnson, however, this tight-knit community often felt suffocating. She lived with her grandmother in a modest house on the outskirts of town, far enough from the main street to avoid unwanted attention, but close enough to feel its weight. Her days began early, waking up before sunrise to catch the school bus that would take her to Lincoln High School. Maya wasn't like most teenagers in Ridgewood. While others spent their weekends hanging out at the local diner or gossiping about prom dates, Maya preferred solitude. She found peace in practicing martial arts in her backyard, a skill she had learned from her late father. He had been a disciplined man who believed in strength, not just physical, but mental and emotional too. After his passing, Maya vowed to continue his legacy, training tirelessly even when no one was watching. To the outside world, she appeared quiet and reserved, almost invisible. But beneath her calm exterior lay a fierce determination and an unshakable sense of justice. Ridgewood wasn't exactly known for its diversity. Most residents shared similar backgrounds, and those who didn't often stuck to themselves to avoid trouble. Maya's dark skin made her stand out in ways she never asked for. At school, she endured sideways glances, whispered comments, and occasional jokes about her hair or accent. Some kids pretended not to notice her, while others went out of their way to make her feel unwelcome. Despite all this, Maya refused to let bitterness take root in her heart. Instead, she focused on her studies and dreamed of one day leaving Ridgewood behind for a place where she could truly belong. Every weekday morning, Maya boarded bus No. 7, which picked up students from various neighborhoods before heading to Lincoln High. It was here on this cramped yellow bus that many of the town's prejudices played out in plain sight. The seating arrangement was unofficially divided. Popular kids sat near the front, quieter students claimed the middle rows, and anyone considered different was expected to sit at the back. Maya usually chose a spot somewhere in between, hoping to stay unnoticed. But lately, someone had taken notice, and he wasn't happy about it. Jake Thompson was a senior at Lincoln High, and one of the most feared bullies in school. Tall, broad-shouldered, and loud-mouthed, Jake thrived on making others uncomfortable. He prided himself on being the self-appointed enforcer of Ridgewood's social hierarchy. If someone stepped out of line, Jake was quick to remind them of their place, and he did so without hesitation. On the bus, his word was law. No one dared challenge him, not even the driver, who turned a blind eye to his antics as long as they didn't escalate into outright violence. One chilly autumn morning, Maya climbed onto bus No. 7 as usual, clutching her backpack tightly. She scanned the aisle for an empty seat and settled into a spot halfway down the bus. Just as she pulled out her earphones, she heard Jake's voice boom from the front row. "Hey, you," he called out, pointing directly at her. Maya froze, unsure if he was talking to someone else. When their eyes met, Jake smirked. "Yeah, I'm talking to you," he said, his tone dripping with mockery. "You know the rules. People like you sit in the back." The bus fell silent. Every head turned toward Maya, waiting to see how she would respond. Some students shifted uncomfortably in their seats, while others exchanged knowing looks. Maya felt her cheeks burn, but she forced herself to remain composed. Without saying a word, she stood up and moved further back, claiming a seat near the emergency exit. As she sat down, she caught glimpses of pity and amusement on the faces around her. Jake leaned back in satisfaction, laughing with his friends, as if he'd won some kind of victory. But what Jake didn't realize was that Maya wasn't running away. She was biding her time. Beneath her calm demeanor, anger simmered. She replayed his words over and over in her mind, each syllable cutting deeper than the last. "People like you?" The phrase echoed like a slap across the face. Who did he think he was? Did he really believe he had the right to dictate where she belonged? Maya clenched her fists under the table, feeling the familiar urge to fight back. But she held herself in check. Not yet, she told herself. Patience was key. That evening, as Maya practiced her kicks and punches in the backyard, her thoughts kept returning to the bus ride. She imagined confronting Jake, imagined the look on his face when he realized she wasn't afraid of him. Her father's voice rang in her ears. Strength isn't just about throwing punches, Maya. It's about knowing when to use them, and why. She understood the lesson well. Fighting wasn't about revenge. It was about standing up for what was right. And tomorrow she decided she would do just that. Little did Jake know his days of bullying were numbered. Maya's patience was wearing thin. And the next time he crossed her path, he wouldn't be prepared for what came next. Unaware of the storm brewing inside her, Jake continued to strut through Ridgewood as though he owned the place. But Maya was done playing by his rules. The stage was set for a showdown, one that would change both their lives forever. The next morning, the air was thick with tension as Maya stepped onto bus number 7. She could feel the weight of everyone's stares before she even reached her usual seat. Jake Thompson sat near the front, his legs sprawled across the aisle as if to claim more space than he deserved. When he spotted Maya walking past him, a smirk spread across his face. "Back again, huh?" he called out, loud enough for the entire bus to hear. "I thought I made myself clear yesterday. People like you don't sit in the middle. You belong in the back." Maya stopped mid-step, her fingers tightening around the strap of her backpack. For a moment, she considered ignoring him and moving further back as she had done the day before. But something inside her snapped. Turning slowly to face him, she locked eyes with Jake, her expression calm but unyielding. In a voice so steady it surprised even herself, she said, "I'm not sitting in the back because of you. And I'm tired of being treated like I don't belong here." Jake blinked, caught off guard by her sudden defiance. He wasn't used to anyone standing up to him, especially not someone like Maya. Recovering quickly, he leaned forward, his grin widening into a sneer. "Oh yeah? What are you going to do about it?" he challenged, his tone dripping with mockery. A few students snickered nervously, while others held their breath, unsure of what would happen next. Without warning, Jake stood up and shoved Maya hard on her shoulder. The push sent her stumbling backward, but only for a second. Instinct kicked in almost instantly. Years of martial arts training took over, and Maya reacted faster than anyone could anticipate. With lightning speed, she grabbed Jake's wrist, twisted it firmly yet precisely, and pinned him against the nearest pole in the aisle. The entire bus erupted in gasps and murmurs as Jake struggled uselessly, unable to break free from her grip. "Let me go," Jake shouted, his face turning red with embarrassment and rage. But Maya didn't budge. Instead, she leaned closer, her voice low but sharp. "If you ever touch me again," she warned, "you'll regret it." Then, with one fluid motion, she released him and stepped back, leaving Jake clutching his arm and glaring at her in disbelief. For a moment, silence hung heavy in the air. No one dared to speak. Even the bus driver glanced in the rearview mirror, unsure of what to do. Finally, Jake muttered something under his breath and slunk back to his seat, avoiding eye contact with anyone. Maya, meanwhile, calmly returned to her spot near the emergency exit, acting as though nothing extraordinary had just happened. Yet every pair of eyes on the bus remained fixed on her, wide with shock and awe. Word of the incident spread like wildfire. By the time the bus pulled up to Lincoln High School, nearly every student knew what had happened. Some whispered excitedly about how Maya had taken down Jake in seconds, while others expressed disbelief that quiet, unassuming Maya Johnson could possess such skill. As she walked through the crowded hallways, Maya noticed people glancing at her curiously, some even nodding in approval. It was strange. She had always been invisible before, blending into the background like a shadow. Now, suddenly, she was the center of attention. During lunch, Maya found herself surrounded by classmates eager to hear her side of the story. "Is it true you flipped Jake over your shoulder?" one boy asked, his eyes wide with admiration. Another chimed in, "How did you learn to fight like that?" Maya smiled faintly, brushing off their questions with modesty. "I've been training for a long time," she explained simply. "It's not about fighting. It's about protecting yourself." Despite the newfound respect, Maya couldn't shake the feeling that things weren't over. She knew Jake well enough to predict that he wouldn't let this humiliation slide. Sure enough, later that afternoon, as she boarded the bus to go home, she noticed him sitting with two of his closest friends, both known troublemakers who shared his disdain for authority. They exchanged smirks as Maya passed them, their intentions clear. This wasn't going to end quietly. As the bus rumbled along its route, Jake and his friends began making their move. One of them stood up and blocked the aisle, forcing Maya to stop. "You think you're tough, huh?" the boy sneered, cracking his knuckles menacingly. Behind him, Jake grinned, clearly enjoying the spectacle. "Let's see how tough you really, are," he added, stepping closer. Maya's heart raced, but she forced herself to stay calm. She scanned the situation quickly, noting the positions of each boy and calculating her options. Just as the first attacker lunged toward her, Maya sidestepped gracefully, using his momentum against him. With a swift kick to the back of his knee, she sent him sprawling onto the floor. Before his friend could react, she spun around and delivered a precise strike to his chest, knocking the wind out of him. Within seconds, both boys were on the ground, groaning in pain. Jake stared at her, his confidence wavering. "You think you can take me too?" he growled, clenching his fists. Without hesitation, Maya nodded. "Try me," she replied coolly. Jake hesitated for a split second, just long enough for Maya to seize the advantage. She moved with precision, dodging his clumsy punches and countering with calculated strikes. Within moments, Jake joined his friends on the floor, clutching his stomach and breathing heavily. The driver slammed on the brakes, bringing the bus to an abrupt halt. "What's going on back there?" he demanded, storming toward the commotion. Maya straightened up, her composure unwavering. "These three tried to attack me," she explained calmly, gesturing to the boys sprawled across the aisle. The driver looked from Maya to the injured trio, his expression a mix of disbelief and frustration. "All of you, get up and sit down," he ordered, pointing to the front seats. Reluctantly, Jake and his friends obeyed, their faces flushed with shame. By the time the bus reached Maya's stop, news of the altercation had already reached the school administration. Principal Carter summoned Maya to his office the following morning, along with Jake and his accomplices. After hearing both sides of the story, the principal decided to suspend Jake and his friends for bullying and attempted assault. Additionally, they were required to attend counseling sessions focused on conflict resolution and anti-discrimination education. As Maya left the principal's office, she felt a strange sense of relief. For years she had carried the burden of staying silent, of swallowing her anger and pretending everything was fine. Now, for the first time, she realized that standing up for herself didn't make her weak. It made her strong. And as she walked down the hallway, head held high, she knew that this was only the beginning of a much bigger change, not just for her, but for the entire school. The aftermath of the bus incident rippled through Lincoln High School like a storm, leaving no corner untouched. By the next morning, it seemed as though everyone had an opinion about what had happened. Students gathered in clusters during breaks, whispering excitedly about Maya's confrontation with Jake and his friends. Some praised her courage, calling her a hero for standing up to one of the school's biggest bullies. Others were more cautious, warning that Jake wouldn't let this go without retaliation. Teachers, too, found themselves discussing the event in hushed tones, torn between admiration for Maya's bravery and concern over potential fallout. Maya, however, remained unfazed by the buzz surrounding her. She went about her day as usual, attending classes, taking notes, and avoiding unnecessary attention. But deep down, she couldn't ignore the shift in how people treated her. Classmates who had once ignored her now greeted her with smiles or nods of respect. Even teachers seemed to notice her differently, their eyes lingering on her during lessons as if seeing her for the first time. It was strange. She hadn't sought recognition, yet here she was, thrust into the spotlight. That afternoon, Principal Carter called Maya to his office again. This time there was no disciplinary hearing waiting for her. Instead, he wanted to discuss something entirely different. As Maya entered the room, she saw Mrs. Alvarez, the school counselor, sitting beside him. Both wore expressions that were equal parts serious and hopeful. "Maya," Principal Carter began, gesturing for her to sit. We've been thinking a lot about what happened on the bus, and not just the fight itself, but what led up to it. He paused, choosing his words carefully. It's clear that you handled yourself with incredible restraint and skill. But more importantly, your actions highlighted some bigger issues we need to address here at Lincoln High. Mrs. Alvarez leaned forward, her voice warm but firm. We believe your story could inspire others. We're organizing an assembly next week focused on anti-bullying and promoting inclusivity within our school community. Would you be willing to share your experience? Maya blinked, caught off guard by the request. Public speaking wasn't something she enjoyed, or even considered herself good at. The thought of standing in front of hundreds of students and faculty members made her stomach churn. Yet, as she looked at the principal and counselor, she understood why they were asking. Her story wasn't just about fighting back against Jake. It was about standing up for oneself, refusing to accept injustice, and showing others that change was possible. I'll think about it, Maya replied cautiously. Principal Carter nodded, clearly expecting hesitation. Take your time, he said, but know that your voice matters, Maya, more than you might realize. Over the next few days, Maya wrestled with the decision. On one hand, she feared being labeled as someone who craved attention or drama. On the other hand, she knew how isolating life in Ridgewood could feel for students who didn't fit the mold. If sharing her story could help even one person feel less alone, wasn't it worth it? After much deliberation and some encouragement from her grandmother, Maya finally agreed to speak at the assembly. The day of the event arrived, and the auditorium buzzed with anticipation. Rows of students filled the seats, their chatter growing louder as the clock ticked closer to the scheduled start time. Teachers ushered latecomers inside while Principal Carter took the stage to introduce the program. When he announced that Maya would be speaking, the room fell silent. All eyes turned toward her as she walked onto the stage, her steps steady despite the butterflies fluttering in her chest. Standing behind the podium, Maya scanned the sea of faces before her. For a moment, doubt crept in. What if they judged her? What if her words fell flat? Then she remembered her father's advice. Speak from the heart, and people will listen. Taking a deep breath, she began. When I first moved to Ridgewood, I thought blending in was my best option. She started, her voice soft but clear. I kept quiet, stayed out of trouble, and tried not to draw attention to myself. But no matter how hard I tried, I couldn't escape the whispers, the stares, or the feeling that I didn't belong. Some of you may have experienced something similar, being treated differently because of your skin color, where you come from, or simply because you're not like everyone else. She paused, letting her words sink in. A few students nodded, their expressions thoughtful. Encouraged, Maya continued. For a long time, I thought staying silent meant staying safe. But silence doesn't protect us. It only allows the problem to grow. When Jake told me to sit at the back of the bus, he wasn't just insulting me. He was telling me that I didn't deserve to take up space, that I should stay invisible, and maybe part of me believed him, for a while. Her voice grew stronger as she spoke, her confidence building with each sentence. But then I realized something important. I am not invisible. None of us are. We all have value, no matter who we are or where we come from. Standing up for myself didn't mean starting a fight. It meant saying no to hatred and fear. It meant choosing to believe in my own worth, even when others tried to take it away. By the time Maya finished speaking, the auditorium was completely silent. For several seconds, no one moved or spoke. Then, slowly, applause began to ripple through the crowd, growing louder until it filled the entire room. Students stood up, cheering and clapping as Maya stepped away from the podium. Tears welled in her eyes, not from sadness but from relief. She had done it. She had shared her truth, and it resonated with so many others. In the days following the assembly, Maya noticed subtle changes throughout the school. Conversations about racism and bullying became more open, with students and teachers alike acknowledging the need for greater understanding and acceptance. Inspired by Maya's bravery, a group of students formed an alliance called Unity Club, dedicated to fostering inclusivity and supporting marginalized voices. Posters appeared on bulletin boards, encouraging kindness and respect. Even the cafeteria felt different, with cliques beginning to blur as students reached across divides to connect with one another. Jake, meanwhile, returned to school after serving his suspension. Though he initially avoided eye contact with Maya, she could see the shame written on his face whenever their paths crossed. One afternoon, as she was leaving math class, he approached her hesitantly. "Hey, can I talk to you?" he asked. His tone unusually subdued. Maya raised an eyebrow, wary but curious. "Sure," she replied, folding her arms across her chest. Jake glanced around nervously before continuing. "Look, I just wanted to say, I'm sorry for everything. I never realized how messed up my behavior was until all this happened. I don't expect you to forgive me, I want to do better." His apology caught Maya off guard. She studied his face, searching for any trace of insincerity. Finding none, she nodded slowly. "Apologizing is a start," she said, "but actions matter more. Show me and everyone else that you're serious about changing." To his credit, Jake followed through. Over the next few weeks, he attended every counseling session assigned to him, actively participating in discussions about prejudice and accountability. He joined Unity Club meetings, listening quietly as students shared their experiences of discrimination and exclusion. Though progress was slow, his efforts didn't go unnoticed. Some students remained skeptical, unwilling to trust him fully, but others gave him a chance, recognizing the difficulty of admitting fault and working to improve. As for Maya, life began to feel lighter. She still faced challenges, of course. Ridgewood wasn't a perfect place and old habits died hard. But she no longer felt like an outsider looking in. Instead, she embraced her role as both a student and a leader, using her platform to advocate for those who lacked a voice. Her martial arts training continued, not just as a means of self-defense, but as a reminder of the strength she carried within. Through grit, resilience, and unwavering determination, Maya proved that standing up for oneself could spark meaningful change, not just for individuals, but for entire communities. And though the road ahead wouldn't always be smooth, she faced it with hope, knowing that her actions had planted seeds of transformation in a town that desperately needed them. The weeks following the assembly marked a turning point for Lincoln High School. The Unity Club, inspired by Maya's speech, quickly grew into one of the most active student organizations on campus. Students from all walks of life joined, some eager to make a difference, others curious about how they could contribute. Under Maya's guidance, the club organized workshops, discussions, and events aimed at fostering inclusivity and breaking down barriers. For many, it became a safe space to share experiences, voice concerns, and work together toward solutions. One of the club's first initiatives was a story wall project. Sheets of paper were taped along the walls of the cafeteria, each labeled with prompts like, "A time I felt invisible," "What kindness means to me," or "How can we support each other?" Students were encouraged to write their thoughts anonymously, creating a mosaic of voices that reflected both pain and hope. At first, only a few brave souls participated, but soon the sheets filled up, spilling over onto additional pages. Some entries brought tears to readers' eyes, while others sparked laughter or nods of agreement. It was raw, honest, and powerful, a testament to the courage people found when given a platform to express themselves. Maya played an integral role in these efforts, though she often shied away from taking credit. She preferred working behind the scenes, helping brainstorm ideas or offering quiet encouragement to those who needed it. Still, her presence loomed large. When disagreements arose during meetings, she stepped in to mediate, reminding everyone that progress required patience and understanding. Her calm demeanor and unwavering commitment earned her respect not only from students but also from teachers and administrators. Jake Thompson, meanwhile, continued his slow but steady transformation. While some students remained wary of him, others began to see glimpses of sincerity in his actions. During Unity Club meetings, he listened intently as peers shared stories of discrimination and marginalization. He didn't always know what to say, but his willingness to listen spoke volumes. One day, after hearing a classmate recount being mocked for wearing traditional clothing, Jake approached Maya privately. "I never thought about stuff like that before," he admitted, scratching the back of his neck awkwardly. "I mean, I knew people got made fun of, but I didn't realize how much it hurt. I guess I used to think it wasn't my problem." Maya studied him carefully, searching for signs of insincerity. Finding none, she nodded. "It's okay to admit you didn't know," she said. "What matters is what you do now." Encouraged by her response, Jake started stepping outside his comfort zone. He volunteered to help organize Unity Club events, even suggesting activities designed to bring diverse groups together. One of his ideas, a cultural exchange fair where students showcased food, music, and traditions from their backgrounds, proved wildly popular. Parents and teachers attended alongside students, marveling at the vibrant display of diversity within the school community. Jake worked tirelessly to ensure everything ran smoothly, earning grudging approval from even his harshest critics. Despite these positive changes, not everyone embraced the newfound spirit of unity. A small but vocal group of students resented what they saw as forced inclusivity. They grumbled about political correctness and claimed the school was becoming too focused on issues that didn't affect them personally. Some went so far as to mock the Unity Club online, posting memes and snarky comments under fake accounts. But instead of letting negativity derail their efforts, Maya and her fellow club members chose to rise above it. They responded with kindness, inviting detractors to attend meetings and learn more about their mission. Slowly but surely, some skeptics softened, realizing that the club's goals weren't about excluding anyone. They were about making sure no one felt excluded. As spring approached, Maya noticed another shift, not just in the school, but within herself. For years, she had carried the weight of feeling like an outsider, convinced that blending in was her best chance at survival. Now, however, she realized that embracing her uniqueness was her greatest strength. Whether it was leading Unity Club discussions, practicing martial arts in her backyard, or simply walking through the halls with her head held high, Maya exuded confidence in ways that inspired others to do the same. Her grandmother noticed the change too. One evening, as they sat together on the porch watching the sunset, Grandma Johnson smiled knowingly. "You've grown so much, child," she said softly. "Your father would be proud." Maya looked at her, surprised by the lump forming in her throat. "Do you really think so?" she asked. Her grandmother chuckled, patting her hand. "Of course. You're standing up for yourself, and for others. That takes real courage." The sense of belonging Maya had longed for finally began to take root. Friends she never expected reached out, inviting her to join study groups or hang out after school. Even teachers seemed to notice her differently, calling on her more often in class or asking her opinion on school-related matters. It wasn't just about popularity, it was about connection. For the first time, Maya felt truly seen and valued for who she was. Still, challenges lingered. Not every interaction was smooth sailing, and there were moments when old prejudices reared their ugly heads. During a heated debate in history class, a student casually dropped a racial stereotype while discussing immigration policies. The room fell silent, tension crackling in the air. Maya clenched her fists under the table, torn between anger and restraint. Before she could decide how to respond, another classmate, a boy named Marcus, spoke up. "That's not cool," he said firmly, meeting the offender's gaze. "We're better than that." Maya blinked, caught off guard by Marcus's intervention. She hadn't expected anyone else to step in, let alone someone who had once teased her himself. Yet here he was, defending her without hesitation. It was a small moment, but it spoke volumes about the ripple effect of Maya's actions. By standing up for herself, she had inspired others to do the same, not just for her, but for anyone facing injustice. Outside of school, the community began to feel the impact as well. Inspired by the Unity Club's success, local leaders organized town hall meetings to discuss diversity and inclusion. Maya was invited to speak at one such event, sharing her story with parents, business owners, and civic officials. Though nervous, she drew strength from the support she received, from her grandmother, her friends, and even former adversaries like Jake. Each time she stood in front of an audience, she reminded herself why she was doing this: to create a world where no one felt invisible or unworthy. By the end of the school year, Ridgewood was unrecognizable from the place it had been mere months earlier. Conversations about race, identity, and acceptance had become part of everyday life, woven into the fabric of the community. Teachers incorporated lessons on social justice into their curriculums, while sports teams and clubs adopted inclusivity pledges. Even the bus rides to and from school felt different, with fewer cliques and more camaraderie among students. For Maya, the journey wasn't over. It might never truly be. There would always be new battles to fight, new injustices to confront. But she faced the future with hope, knowing that she had already accomplished something remarkable. She had proven that one person's courage could spark a chain reaction, transforming not just individual lives but entire communities. And as she prepared to enter her senior year, Maya vowed to keep pushing forward, to continue standing tall, speaking out, and inspiring others to do the same. As summer approached, Ridgewood buzzed with a newfound energy. The changes sparked by Maya's actions had taken root, spreading far beyond Lincoln High School and into the wider community. Local businesses began displaying signs promoting inclusivity, while churches and community centers hosted workshops on diversity and empathy. Even the annual town fair, usually a predictable affair filled with corn dogs and Ferris wheels, featured a unity pavilion showcasing art, music, and stories from Ridgewood's diverse residents. It was as if the entire town had awakened to the realization that progress wasn't just possible, it was necessary. Maya found herself busier than ever. Between organizing Unity Club events, speaking at community gatherings, and keeping up with her studies, she barely had time to catch her breath. Yet, despite the whirlwind of activity, she felt more alive than she ever had before. Each day brought new opportunities to make a difference, whether it was mentoring younger students or brainstorming ideas for future projects. Her martial arts training continued too, serving as both a physical outlet and a reminder of the discipline that had carried her through so many challenges. One evening, as Maya practiced her kicks in the backyard, her grandmother called her inside. "There's someone here to see you," she said, a hint of curiosity in her voice. Puzzled, Maya followed her into the living room, where Jake Thompson sat awkwardly on the couch. He looked different somehow, less arrogant, more humble. When he saw Maya, he stood up quickly, his hands shoved into his pockets. "Hey, I know this is unexpected," Jake began, shifting uncomfortably. "But I wanted to talk to you about something." Maya crossed her arms, waiting for him to continue. Over the past few months, Jake had proven himself capable of change. But trust wasn't built overnight. She didn't interrupt, letting him find his words. "I've been thinking a lot lately," Jake admitted, glancing down at his shoes, "about everything that happened, the bullying, the fights, all of it. And, well, I realized I owe you an apology again. Not just for what I did to you, but for all the times I hurt other people without even realizing it." He paused, taking a deep breath. "I don't expect forgiveness, but I want to do better. For real this time." Maya studied him carefully, searching for any trace of insincerity. What she saw instead was vulnerability, a willingness to confront his mistakes head-on. After a moment, she nodded slowly. "Apologies are important," she said, "but actions matter more. If you're serious about changing, prove it." Jake nodded vigorously. "That's why I'm here," he replied. "I've been working with Mrs. Alvarez on some ideas to help me stay accountable. One thing we came up with is volunteering at the youth center downtown. They teach self-defense classes there, and I thought maybe you could show me how to use my size and strength to help people instead of hurting them." Maya raised an eyebrow, surprised by the request. Teaching Jake self-defense seemed like an odd twist of fate, but she couldn't deny the potential impact. If someone like Jake could learn to channel his aggression into something positive, It might inspire others to do the same. All right, she said finally. We'll start slow, but if you mess up, I won't hesitate to call you out. Over the next several weeks, Maya and Jake trained together at the youth center. At first, their sessions were tense, with Jake struggling to follow instructions and Maya growing frustrated at his clumsiness. But gradually, they developed a rhythm. Jake's natural athleticism kicked in, and Maya's patience paid off as he began mastering basic techniques. More importantly, their shared effort fostered mutual respect. For the first time, they weren't adversaries, they were teammates. Word of their partnership spread quickly, drawing attention from both supporters and skeptics. Some praised Jake's efforts to turn his life around, while others remained cautious, questioning whether his transformation was genuine. Maya fielded questions from friends and classmates, assuring them that she wouldn't have agreed to train Jake unless she believed in his sincerity. Change isn't easy, she told them, but it's worth supporting when someone's willing to put in the work. Meanwhile, the Unity Club celebrated its biggest achievement yet, securing funding for a permanent space on campus. Thanks to donations from parents and local businesses, the club now had a dedicated room equipped with resources for hosting discussions, workshops, and creative projects. Maya stood proudly beside Principal Carter as he cut the ribbon during the grand opening ceremony, watching as students poured into the newly renovated area. Posters advocating kindness lined the walls, while shelves overflowed with books on social justice and cultural awareness. The Unity Club's success inspired similar initiatives in neighboring towns, creating a network of students committed to fostering inclusivity. Maya traveled to nearby schools to share her experiences, often accompanied by Jake, who had become one of the club's most vocal advocates. Together, they spoke about overcoming prejudice, embracing accountability, and finding common ground, despite differences. Their unlikely friendship served as living proof that even the deepest divides could be bridged with effort and understanding. Back at home, Maya reflected on how much had changed since that fateful morning on the bus. Life hadn't magically become perfect. There were still moments of tension, misunderstandings, and setbacks, but the overall trajectory felt hopeful. People were talking openly about issues that once went unacknowledged, and meaningful conversations were replacing silence and fear. Even small gestures like strangers smiling at her in the grocery store or neighbors greeting her warmly made a difference. Her grandmother noticed the shift as well. "You've done something extraordinary, child," Grandma Johnson said one evening sipping tea on the porch. "Not just for yourself, but for everyone around you." Maya smiled, leaning back in her chair. "It wasn't just me," she replied. "People wanted to change. They just needed someone to show them it was possible." As the school year drew to a close, Maya prepared for her final stretch at Lincoln High. With college applications looming, she spent hours researching programs that aligned with her passions for advocacy and leadership. Though excited about the future, she also felt a pang of sadness knowing she'd soon leave behind the community she'd helped transform. Still, she reminded herself that her work wasn't confined to Ridgewood. Wherever she went, she vowed to carry the lessons she'd learned and continue fighting for a world where everyone belonged. On the last day of school, Maya stood outside the building, watching as students streamed out into the sunshine. Friends hugged goodbye, promising to stay in touch over the summer while teachers handed out report cards with encouraging smiles. As she scanned the crowd, Maya spotted Jake standing near the entrance, surrounded by a group of younger students, eager to hear one of his jokes. He caught her eye and waved, grinning widely. Maya returned the gesture, feeling a surge of pride, not just for him, but for everyone who had contributed to this journey. For Maya, the road ahead promised challenges and triumphs alike. But as she walked away from Lincoln High, she carried with her the knowledge that change was possible, even in places resistant to it. All it took was courage, persistence, and a belief in the power of unity. And though she knew the fight for equality would never truly end, she faced it with hope, ready to inspire others to join her in building a brighter, kinder world. The summer before Maya's final year at Lincoln High was unlike any other. The town of Ridgewood seemed to breathe differently now, its rhythm infused with a newfound sense of purpose. People who had once kept their heads down and avoided difficult conversations were now actively engaging in discussions about equality, empathy, and inclusion. The Unity Club's influence extended far beyond the school walls. It became a beacon of hope for neighboring communities, inspiring others to take similar steps toward change. Maya spent her days juggling preparations for college applications, mentoring younger students at the youth center, and continuing her self-defense training sessions with Jake. Their partnership had evolved into something neither of them could have anticipated when they first clashed on the bus. Jake, once a symbol of fear and prejudice, was now a vocal advocate for anti-bullying efforts. His journey wasn't without challenges. There were moments when old habits threatened to resurface, but he remained steadfast in his commitment to growth. Maya admired his determination, even if she still kept a watchful eye on him. One afternoon, as Maya and Jake wrapped up a training session at the youth center, a group of kids gathered around them, eager to ask questions. "How do you stay calm when someone tries to hurt you?" one boy asked, his wide eyes filled with admiration. Maya knelt down to meet his gaze, smiling gently. "It's not always easy," she admitted. "But I remind myself that anger only makes things worse. Instead, I focus on protecting myself, and sometimes that means using my words instead of my fists," Jake chimed in, adding his perspective. "Yeah, and don't forget, strength isn't just about fighting back. It's about knowing when to walk away and when to stand your ground." The kids nodded thoughtfully, hanging on to every word. For Maya, these interactions were some of the most rewarding parts of her work. Seeing young minds open up to new ideas gave her hope for the future, a future where kindness might outweigh cruelty. As September arrived, bringing with it the start of Maya's senior year, excitement buzzed through the halls of Lincoln High. The Unity Club launched its biggest initiative yet, a peer mentorship program connecting upperclassmen with freshmen to help them navigate high school life. Maya took charge of organizing the program, pairing mentors and mentees based on shared interests and goals. She herself was assigned to guide a shy freshman named Ava, who reminded Maya of her younger self, quiet, reserved, but brimming with untapped potential. Over weekly meetings, Maya encouraged Ava to step out of her comfort zone. "You don't have to be loud to make an impact," Maya told her during one session. "Sometimes, simply being there for someone can change their whole day." Ava listened intently, her confidence growing with each passing week. By the end of the semester, she had joined the art club and even participated in a Unity Club event, proudly displaying her paintings alongside other students' work. Meanwhile, Jake continued to surprise everyone with his dedication to personal growth. He became a regular speaker at Unity Club events, sharing his story of transformation with audiences ranging from elementary school students to local business owners. Though he stumbled over his words at times, his sincerity resonated deeply. "I used to think power meant pushing people around," he confessed during one talk. "But real power is lifting others up, even if it means swallowing your pride first." By winter, Ridgewood had become a model for neighboring towns striving to address issues of discrimination and inequality. Local newspapers featured stories about the Unity Club's success, highlighting Maya's leadership and Jake's redemption arc. Even national outlets took notice, sending reporters to interview students and faculty members about the ripple effect of their efforts. When a documentary crew arrived to film a segment about Ridgewood's transformation, Maya found herself at the center of attention once again. This time, however, she embraced it, not for her own sake, but because she knew it would amplify the message she cared so deeply about. College application season brought its own set of stresses, but Maya approached it with characteristic resilience. She poured her heart into essays detailing her experiences, emphasizing the importance of standing up for oneself and others. Her grandmother helped proofread drafts, offering wisdom and encouragement along the way. "You've already changed the world, child," Grandma Johnson said one evening, handing Maya a cup of tea. "Now go show the rest of it what you're made of." In March, acceptance letters began arriving. Maya sat cross-legged on her bedroom floor, surrounded by envelopes, her heart pounding as she opened each one. When she finally reached the letter From her dream university, a prestigious liberal arts college known for its social justice programs, her hands trembled. Inside was a single sheet of paper bearing the words she had longed to read. "Congratulations, you've been accepted." Tears streamed down her face as she ran downstairs to share the news with her grandmother. They hugged tightly, laughing and crying together. Later that night, Maya called her closest friends to celebrate, including Jake, who cheered loudly enough to wake his neighbors. "You deserve this more than anyone I know," he told her sincerely. "Don't forget us little people when you're out there changing the world." Graduation day arrived sooner than anyone expected. As Maya stood on stage, diploma in hand, she scanned the crowd, her eyes landing on familiar faces. There was her grandmother, beaming with pride, Mrs. Alvarez wiping away tears, Principal Carter clapping enthusiastically, and Jake giving her 2 thumbs up from the audience. Each of them represented a piece of her journey, a reminder of how far she'd come. In her valedictorian speech, Maya spoke candidly about resilience, courage, and the power of community. "Change doesn't happen overnight," she said, her voice steady despite the lump in her throat. "It takes hard work, patience, and a willingness to confront uncomfortable truths. But when we stand together, we can create a world where everyone has a seat at the table, not just in the back of the bus." The crowd erupted in applause, rising to their feet in a standing ovation. As Maya stepped off the stage, she felt a profound sense of gratitude, not just for her achievements but for the support system that had carried her through every challenge. Her journey hadn't been easy, but it had been worth it. Years later, as Maya pursued her studies and career in advocacy, she often reflected on her time in Ridgewood. The lessons she learned there stayed with her, guiding her as she worked to dismantle systems of oppression and uplift marginalized voices. And though she faced new battles along the way, she never forgot the girl who refused to sit quietly in the back of the bus, the girl who proved that standing up for yourself could spark a revolution. In the end, Maya's story wasn't just about overcoming racism or bullying. It was about finding strength in vulnerability, hope in adversity, and unity in diversity. It was a testament to the idea that no matter where you come from or what obstacles you face, your actions can inspire others to believe in themselves and in the possibility of a better tomorrow.